Commerce Alive Today presents
Brown's Chicken Massacre. On January 8, 1993, two young men entered Brown's Chicken in Palatine, Chicago, just before its 9 p.m. closing time. They ordered a chicken meal before taking their seats at the first booth next to a trash can. After stuffing their faces, the pair put the remains of their dinner in the trash can, covered their hands with latex gloves, and proceeded to rob the restaurant. Employee, Rico Solis, who was in the process of sweeping the floor, was approached by one of the robbers, who directed him to walk to the back of the restaurant. The other fired a shot and ordered everyone to get on the floor. Another employee tried to make a run for it and jumped over the counter. He was shot before making it to safety and taken to the restaurant's west side cooler, along with one of the franchise owners, Richard Felt. A few moments later, multiple shots were heard coming from that cooler. After killing two employees, one robber held franchise co-owner Lynn Felt at knife point and demanded she retrieve the money from the safe. The robber then slit her throat with the knife and dragged her body into the restaurant's walk-in refrigerator, where the remaining 4 employees were located. It would later come to light that the 4 employees begged not to be shot, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. The robbers fired multiple times into the walk-in refrigerator. The night's massacre earned the duo just less than $2,000. Brown's Chicken employees Guadalupe Maldonado, Michael C. Castro, Rico L. Solis, Thomas Men, and Marcus Nelson were among the 7 killed, along with franchise owners Richard E. Felt and his wife Lynn W. Felt. There were no survivors. Heartbreakingly, 2 of the casualties, Michael Castro and Rico L. Solis, were 16 and 17 years old, respectively, when they met their untimely end. The 2 were both working part-time at the fast food restaurant after attending classes at Palatine High School. The cops were soon alerted that something was amiss when they received phone calls from concerned loved ones. Less than 6 hours after the 9 p.m. closing time, police officers arrived at the restaurant and found the back entrance unlocked. They soon discovered the 7 victims of the massacre inside. On January 11, 1993, when investigating the scene at Brown's Chicken, Dr. Jane Homier saw that a 4-piece chicken meal with fries, coleslaw, and a small drink had been purchased at 9:08 p.m. from one of the cash registers. Looking further, she noticed that although the trash can on the west side of the dining room had a fresh bag, inside was a cardboard box with 4 pieces of chicken, scattered French fries, biscuits, coleslaw, paper products, and other chicken parts and bones. The trash can contained the remains of what looked like the same meal purchased at 9:08 p.m. Dr. Homier had the foresight to take the leftover chicken from the trash can near the murder scene. She attributed her decision to divine providence and kept the potential evidence in the police freezer. It's important to note that the use of DNA evidence to solve crimes was still in its early stages in 1993. Therefore, the piece of chicken left in the garbage couldn't be used to track down the culprit at that time. Unfortunately, with not many viable leads to go on, the case would remain unsolved for 9 agonizing years. That is until Unlockit came forward with vital information in March 2002. In March 2002, more than 9 years after the murders, Unlockit came forward and implicated her former boyfriend, James Degorski, and his associate, Juan Luna, in the crime. Luna, then aged 18, was a former employee of the restaurant. In April 2002, the Palatine Police Department matched a DNA sample from Luna to a sample of saliva from a piece of partially eaten chicken found in the garbage during the crime scene investigation. The chicken was kept in a freezer for most of the time since the crime. Testimony at trial indicated it was not frozen for several days after discovery, and was allowed to thaw several times for examination and testing, in the hope of an eventual match via increasingly sophisticated testing methods not available in 1993. The Palatine Police Department took the 2 suspects into custody on May 16, 2002. Luna confessed to the crime during an interrogation, though his lawyers later claimed that he was coerced to do so through police brutality and threats of deportation. The pair, who met at Palatine's William Fremd High School, subsequently went to trial. On May 10, 2007, Juan Luna was found guilty of all 7 counts of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole on May 17. The state sought the death penalty, which was available at the time, but the jury's vote of 11-1 in favor of the death penalty fell short of the required unanimity to impose it. On September 29, 2009, James Degorski was found guilty of all 7 counts of murder, largely on the testimony of his former girlfriend and Lockett and another woman, who both stated that Degorski confessed to them. On October 20, 2009, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. All but 2 of the jurors voted for the death penalty. In March 2014, a jury awarded James Degorski $451,000 in compensation and punitive damages after being beaten by a sheriff's deputy in Cook County Jail in May 2002. He suffered facial fractures that required surgery. The deputy was eventually dismissed. Frank Portillo, then president, and co-founder of Brown's Chicken, said sales at all of his restaurants dropped by 35% just months after the bodies of the 7 victims were discovered in the suburban restaurant's cooler and walk-in refrigerator. It scared people. They just stopped coming. Even today, people tell me they never have been back to a Brown's since the tragedy. The company eventually had to close over 100 restaurants in the Chicago area. The building was razed in April 2001, after briefly housing a dry cleaning establishment and then standing vacant for many years. A Chase Bank branch office was constructed at the former Browns location. Luna and Degorski are imprisoned at the Stateville Correctional Center.
If you have any fond memories, please indicate it at the comments below. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and like.